board does not write the zoning ordinance, but does have the authority to grant relief from it where practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship would result. The board will vote on each agenda item following a public hearing. Use variances request a minimum of 6 affirmative votes in order to grant the requested variances. Non-use variances request a minimum of 5 affirmative votes in order to grant the variances. If you would like to request the board table or adjourn your case due to the absence of a full board, which tonight we are missing one person, you must inform the chairperson immediately after public hearing. Petitioners shall do their best to limit presentations to 10 minutes. Each participant in a public hearing shall do their best to limit comments to 3 minutes. Okay, roll call. As we can see, everyone's here except Ms. George. Approval of minutes for January 13th, 2022.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay, is there a second? Mr. Reddy seconds. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, passes. Thank you. There is no old business or unfinished business. So first case is case number 22-02-06, 601 North Main Street. Mr. Murphy, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. In the fall of 20...
wait a second, it looks like nothing's showing up there.
We'll give Richard down in the cable channel a chance to display on what's on the screen. There he goes. You woke him up. In the fall of 2021, it was brought to the city's attention that a new business was established at the subject property, and our office sent the business owner a letter asking them to identify their use of the tenant space. So we asked them for a written business plan, a sketch floor plan, a list of items that they sell or services that they offer, and whether they had any age limitations on entering the facility or any portions of the tenant space. And based on their response, we determined that their operation is an adult-oriented business. And the city's zoning ordinance defines an adult retail store as an establishment which has a substantial or significant portion of its stock in trade in terms used or advertised as sexually explicit entertainment gimmicks, novelties, or paraphernalia. And on 4 different occasions, the petitioner provided inventory summaries which describe their products for sale. And each of those responses affirmed our determination. So their former attorney continuously referenced that they did sell adult-oriented products and that they had signage identifying age restrictions. And the petitioners have contended that they don't sell such items. The petitioner asserts that items like leather harnesses or leather singlets or pup masks are traditional apparel, and yet I don't see anyone wearing anything like that tonight. They also assert that different accessories such as genitalia slings or restrictors are somehow standard retail items. And we do not feel that's the same way. The petitioner is asking the board to overturn our determination so that they can operate at this location without any further approval. So the board has the opportunity to affirm staff's recommendation or to modify it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Is there any questions for Mr. Murphy? Mr. Claude.
You mentioned significant portion. What is the definition, or is there a percentage? Is it 10% of items, 20% of items? Is there a better definition of that?
No, there isn't in the ordinance. There's no set calculation or number.
Ms. Hukin.
Mr. Murphy, can you tell me, I think I know, but I want clarification, where are adult commercial establishments permitted in the city?
Yes, they're allowed as a special land use in the general business zoning district, and most Woodward Avenue is in the general business zoning district.
So then if we affirmed your decision, would they have to comply with Article 5, or would they automatically be banned because it's a neighborhood business?
If you affirm the decision, they would either have to cease operation. To continue to operate at this location, they would need to come back in front of you for a use variance and then a variance from some of the dimensional standards, such as a distance to residences or schools or religious institutions.
quick follow-up to that.
Sure.
If they stop selling the material that would be considered adult, they would, and when, in the future, would
They
it,
would be issued tickets, citations right
Okay.
away.
okay,
We've had that conversation back and forth and back with them as to, we stopped selling these particular items and we asked for a business inventory, and the business inventory that's provided still contains such items. So it's their intent is clearly to want to be an adult store. So we suggested that they come forward and seek the necessary variance request. Always difficult to play the cat and mouse game of
Yep.
things here today, gone tomorrow. Is clearly their intent in all of the different times they've submitted things to us that they intend to want to provide at least some percentage of those types of products.
okay, thank you. Mr. Gavin, you had a question?
You asked exactly what I was going to ask.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moore?
So I do see various pages of communication here, and somewhere in here, and I can't find the page now, they did confirm that they removed adult items. Have we revisited this issue? I mean, like, how is that determined if they have or have not removed those? That's based on the inventory list?
Yes, and they provided an inventory list right when they submitted an application, so that was the third inventory list. And then more recently, maybe 2 days ago, they provided another summary for the board to review, and that still continued to have such items.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Murphy? All right, seeing none, if the petitioner is present, please come forward and present your case.
All right, so we don't want to be an adult enterprise, as Mr. Murphy said. We want to be an apparel store. Well, we don't feel that, as you said, leather harnesses and pup masks are, they're not traditional apparel, but they are not an adult item. Yes, we do have support rings. 2% of our inventory is support rings. We don't consider them complete sexual item because they can be used for other things. They're also medical. They boost confidence. They can be used for fashion, jewelry. It's an everyday part of gay male life. It's no different than underwear and bras. We want to be a gay male clothing, leather, and smoke shop accessory store. Our vision is to be the premier gay men's store in the Metro Detroit area and a staple in the Royal Oak community. Things we sell are shirts, pants, shorts, underwear, socks, suspenders, harnesses, hats, leather accessories like belts, wrist and armbands. We have pipes, water pipes, rolling papers, rolling machines, towels, blankets, keychains, incense, and air fresheners. We have stuff like calendars, journals. We have personal lubricants, gift bags, greeting cards, and other pride merchandise, rainbow merchandise. The items in question, what we were told was the support rings. Like we said, that they are used for sex, but they are also used for other things, like I said. And it does only account for 2% of our inventory. The city code does state, 770 does state, regarding significant or substantial adult products, and we don't feel that 2% is substantial or significant. Ferndale opened Chosen Books after they moved from here, and they were allowed 15% of adult products, and not considered an adult store. We do not have pornography, we don't have nude pictures or sexual depictions, we don't have magazines, we don't have videos, we do not have any adult sexual devices, and there are no video booths, live sex shows, or strippers. We just asked that we are allowed to operate as an apparel store for gay men in the Royal Oak area. You guys want to add anything?
All right. Is there any questions for the petitioners? Mr.
I was just wondering, should we have them introduce name and location and all that for the record?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm Steve Kanya. I'm one of the owners. This is Chad Lawson. He's the other owner.
Okay. Question for the petitioners? I have one for you. Was Royal Oak your first opportunity at trying to present this business, or have you tried elsewhere?
Well, we tried elsewhere as an adult business, where we had dildos and all of the sex toys. We cut all of that out except for the support rings, because we felt that those are a male item. Gay males use them a lot. They're one of our biggest sellers. We cut out everything else so that we could open a storefront. And instead of being just online, we wanted to actually have a store that people could go into. And that's what we did, and we are still having issues. We tried at every other city to try to open an adult business. They kept telling us it was only zoned for certain areas. There was either nothing available in those areas, or the landlord didn't want a store like that, or there was a Dollar Tree or something nearby that has restrictions to have that. As far as we know, we've actually looked into it. CVS and Walgreens carry these type of rings in their store, and they also have vibrators and other things. They're not considered an adult store, so why are we? That's
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Gavin?
So, and I know you kind of focused on the support rings, but like I did see, I stopped by, there were other things I noticed there, such as like lubricants and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason that you're thinking that those are not, adult oriented? And then I guess I'm also curious because, some like you were saying with the harnesses and that sort of thing. I guess I'm not in this world. I just don't understand it. So
Okay.
I'm just trying to ask this to gain.
I mean,
knowledge
there's
here.
something that people wear out to the bars.
Okay.
You're allowed to wear them. It's not like you have to censor them going out in public. You can wear them out on the street if you wanted to.
It's not explicitly a sexual connotation in the gay community
It's not.
as to what those harnesses are for and that sort of
No.
thing, and the masks.
No, with I'm sorry. What was the other point that you?
The lubricants.
Yeah, the lubricants. There's many retailers that sell lubricants. They're personal lubricants. They're not necessarily used for sexual acts between two people or anything like that. You can use them for other things. So, I don't see why that would be considered an adult item either.
Ms. Zukin?
Can you explain what leather oils are for?
Leather oils,
Yeah.
like leather cleaners.
Leather, yeah.
It's for cleaning leather. For keeping it shiny, healthy, so it doesn't crack, stuff like that.
And you have at least a dozen different types.
Mm-hmm.
That's to clean leather.
Yes.
Okay, and can you explain what your sign says? Hammer Hard. What
That
does
is actually
refer
after
to?
my name, my nickname.
Is Hammer?
My nickname is Jack's Hammer. This is Chase. So it's C&J, Chase and Jack's Hammer Hard Accessories. We're hammering it hard. We're making light of a bad situation in America right now in the world. So that's how we came up with the name.
Ms. Robinson?
There was some reference here to this leather cleaner, I think, and poppers. I saw this online. Can you explain what that is about?
We don't sell poppers. We sell leather cleaners. It can also be used as nail polish remover.
I have a question. I know your harnesses, you say that it's not, it's accessories and anyone can wear them actually, not just one lifestyle over another lifestyle. But how do you think that they're mainstream if a major box store doesn't sell those stuff?
I'm sorry, I can't
Like,
hear.
if you go to search online to find that stuff, the majority of the stores that sell that stuff, they're of a certain connotation. So I'm trying to understand how you can, even though you don't want it to be that connotation, how does that go
Wait,
that way?
you're speaking of other stores that carry sex toys with them?
Well, yes and no, but,
That's what makes us different, is we don't sell sex toys.
okay. Even though you said the rings are used for such
They
things.
are used for that and other things.
Okay.
So they're not specific to sex.
Okay. On your Facebook page, you don't have any reference to adult toys?
We did have adult toys online only.
Okay,
We've since removed them
Okay.
to avoid any more issues.
okay,
But they were online only, they were not in the store.
okay. Yes, Ms. Zuber?
Referring to your website, I went on it today and it did have age restrictions on it. Can you explain why there's age restrictions if you don't sell
We
adult
had the age
items?
restriction on there for when we did have the sexual products. We haven't removed that yet. But it's not age restricted. And to go back to the age restriction, we had that note on the door because we had a lot of groups of younger kids coming in there, as in like 10 of them at once. And we didn't want to compromise our inventory for theft or other reasons. So we put that if you're under 17, we would like you to have an adult with you, just so that they didn't come in a great big group like that. And we can't watch 10 people at once and make sure they're not stealing things or whatever. So that's why we put that up. We took that down because we are not restricted in any way for age.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Gavin?
I was just curious about the history of, because of what it seems to me is this, like you opened up without, checking with the city first, just what happened there? Like usually in our city, we have a, process for
We
new business.
actually
You gotta get
checked
a
into
license.
that, and you didn't have to get a business license, you didn't have to do anything like that. You didn't have to apply to open the business, so we opened without the sex toys because we knew already going in that it would be an issue, so we did not even bring that there, and then we still had issues.
Okay.
Ms. Zukin?
I noticed you have a lounge area with a large screen TV.
Yes.
Can you tell us what that's used for? What
That's
do you use
mainly
it
our
to?
area for when we eat lunch and do stuff like that, and we have the TV for videos, like music videos, so that the music actually goes throughout the store, just gives it a little bit of noise, so that when they're shopping they feel a little more comfortable, because if it's dead silent in there, they come in, they look around for like a second, and then they leave. But when the music's on, we noticed they stay and they shop and look around. They see the lounge area, it looks cozy. Some people will sit down over there and wait for their partner to finish shopping. And it's just a place to sit down and relax for a minute. We do offer pop and water and stuff if they want to drink something. And that's absolutely free also for them. So.
Any other questions? So, I have another question. So, say we agree that you're not an adult store, does that mean you will not bring back any things that you had in there previously that...
No, we decided to discontinue those. We don't want to have those. The only thing that we wanted to have was the support rooms because they're a male item and we're a male-oriented store.
Okay. And how do the water bongs relate to what you're selling?
They really don't, but that's when we originally opened the store online, we had smoke shop accessories, and we just didn't get rid of them because people enjoy them.
Okay. All right.
We don't have anything that contains tobacco or vape, it's just the accessories for that stuff.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we'll have public comment, and then I'll ask you whether or not, because we don't have a full board, whether or not you want us to proceed or to adjourn to next one in case we get a full board.
Okay.
All right, we will open up public comment. I'd like to ask everyone, please keep your comments civil, keep it to 3 minutes or less, and you don't have to keep on repeating the same thing if everyone agrees with something that's said before. You can simply just say, I agree with what so-and-so says, that we don't go too long on the comments. So please come forward, and if you want to, you can state your name, or you don't have to.
Hey everybody, I am a Royal Oak homeowner. I'm within 300 feet of CJ Hammerhard. I do not want the business there. The business is within 600 feet of a middle school, Royal Oak Middle School. So he had pointed out that groups of kids were coming in there that he couldn't control. And that's a major crossing. Farnham and Main Street is a major crossing for the middle schoolers to go to school. as they pass right by CJ Hammerhard. The other thing I want to bring up is I looked through the file and his inventory list, and basically what he's doing is he's kind of moving the sex toy stuff out of there, and he's diluting it with candy and socks, like cheap items. That brings his number down, his percentage of, sex apparel and things like that. Which in my mind is a little bit twisted, because little kids are walking by there, so he's almost luring them in with candy, So that's just something I wanted to bring up there. The water pipes, the water bongs, I mean, everybody knows that's used for smoking weed, right? It's marijuana. It's drug paraphernalia. Harnesses, I guess a harness, I don't really understand what it's for, but, in my mind, it's it's a sex device. It's used in like S&M type stuff, right? So I don't know why else you'd wear one, unless you want to be walked around like a dog or something. I don't think he's a genuine person. Just reading the emails back and forth with what he was saying to the city, it definitely didn't seem like he was a nice person. He's bullying. Basically, he's telling the city what he's going to do. He went in there without any approvals, which I, in my mind, think he knew what he was doing. He's like, I found an empty spot. I'm going to move in. I'm going to set up shop, and then, kind of play the victim game once I get pushed out of there. So now he's playing victim, but he never got the proper approvals in the first place, right? So, like I said, once again, I don't think the business should be there. It's not the right location for it. It's a residential neighborhood with kids walking around. And I hope we can find them a new spot. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward?
Hi. My husband and I have been in the Royal Oak area for 33 years. They are within, I can see their store from my house. I do not agree with what they've said as far as being not a sex store. If you have not gone in, I took pictures off their website and pictures that I took myself of their front windows. I do agree with my neighbor that they are within 500 feet of a middle school. Farnham and Main is a huge crossing section. My husband sees those group of kids every day crossing the street. Now they're going into the store, and when they go in for bubble gum and candy, and they can come out with a dildo, a cock ring, a bong, a crack pipe, chokers, you name it. It is available. They call it accessories, and this is what our middle school kids are going to have. Available the gum and candy, and the bongs, and the crack pipes, and harnesses. And again, they opened up, as I said, without permits. They're asking forgiveness after the fact. And if this is granted, how many other stores can open up, or how many businesses can open up and ask for forgiveness and, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't know that. I'm going to ask forgiveness now. Everybody can do that. And then we're going to have the neighborhood-friendly zoning committee is now inundated with stores that don't fit the neighborhood-friendly cause, which we have it there for a reason. To change it over from 100% sex store to a online clothing store, they've done a 180 on their inventory to comply with the city. If it is approved and nobody's watching, who's going to watch their inventory? Who's going to watch their storefronts at 5 o'clock on a Friday when they flip their storefront to their core business, which is male gay, or I should say male sex toys? No one's there. You're not going to be watching. Some of you are kind enough to go by the store and look on their adult website. Who's going to watch them? And there may be a need for that type of clientele somewhere, but I don't believe it's in the neighborhood-friendly zoning of Royal Oak and 500 feet at a major cross-section for the students of Royal Oak. What are they going to see when they get in there? So,
Sir, please, this is public comment.
do you want to hand these? Do you want these at all, or does anyone want to see them, or no? I'm done. So
you can leave them.
If you want to look at them, they do focus a lot on harnesses and bongs and crack pipes. There's two different sets. Thank you. Oh.
Hi, I'm also, my name's Walt, I'm also a Center Street resident. You know, when I was glad to see, actually, when that place was finally filled up. It's been vacant for quite a while, and it just doesn't seem to be a very lucrative corner for some reason. Looks like a nice little shop. But when I first pulled up, I mean, I took one look at it as soon as I realized somebody was in there, and I immediately knew it was a sex shop. I mean, that's what it is. You know, what they're doing now, I don't know, but that's what it was at that time, certainly. And I certainly think that's inappropriate given the location. I mean, that kind of stuff is fine. You know, I realize there's I suppose a need for it, or you know, they service certain customers and stuff, but it's just not one of those things you want on your corner, you know, and especially given the proximity to a middle school. You know, I mean, I see all those kids out there with their backpacks and their clarinets and stuff, and I mean, it's just odd, you know. Again, I think it's inappropriate. You know, you got the church right down the street. It's eventually, you know, that kind of stuff, if allowed to proliferate, in the neighborhoods, let's say. I mean, I suppose downtown, because it's not right down the street from me, that might be fine. But you know, when eventually I've got to sell that house, and once things, I'm always afraid that once things kind of, you know, anything goes with this kind of thing, or making variances. You know, there's another one. Right, it's almost inevitable. I would think it would be right behind it, and. I mean, certainly if I was looking for a house with a couple of middle school kids, you know, for convenience to walking distance to school, that would give me pause, you know, and there's a reason for that. There's a good reason for it, and I think that's, you know, whether people want to admit that or not, that's in the back of your mind. I'll say one more time, you know, I just think it's not an appropriate business for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Other comments?
Hi, thank you for allowing us to speak. I also live in the neighborhood right stone's throw from the building there, 601 North Main. I am a mother, and I take this very, very seriously. There are not a lot of children on our street, I will say that, but I love our neighborhood and I love our neighbors and the thing we have created there. We've been there for over almost 10 years now in that neighborhood. We have a great relationship with our neighbors. We are open to everyone and anyone on our street. And if you ask any of the neighbors, they'll all say that. We get together on a regular basis. We have a great time. And this, I believe, is not the right location for that store. I am asking you guys to stand with your decision you made originally. This is very important to me. There was a rant on Facebook who said it's my job as a mother to protect my child. And you are absolutely right. It is my job to protect my child. When they're in our home, we have filters on our TVs and on our internet and all those things. And so it is my job then in my neighborhood to protect my children as well, and to protect all those middle school students who cross, as many have said, at the corner of Farnham and Main. I have a lot of friends with kids at that middle school that had no idea that that store was there. I went to a school board meeting. The school board had no idea that store went in there. And I have a problem with that store being allowed to do business when our own zoning rights, which our zoning ordinances were put in place to protect our children and our schools in the city of Royal Oak, that we say is a neighborhood friendly, family friendly. The schools are great. That is why my husband and I chose to raise our children in the city of Royal Oak. That is why we wanted them in the schools, because they are good schools. And I like the city of Royal Oak. We love it here. But I cannot sit back and say that this is acceptable. I have to protect, as the rant said, it is my job. It is my job as a mother to protect my children. And I also feel it is my job, thank you, it is my job to protect the other children in the neighborhood as well, that cross at that street, that go to the middle school. And I feel very, very strongly about this. And so I ask, as a mother, as a Royal Oak resident, as somebody who pays taxes in the city, that you stand up and you withhold what you have already said. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak? Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
I'm a lifelong Metro Detroiter, and I patronized dozens of Royal Oak businesses in the last 35 plus years. I've considered the downtown one of the best places in all of Metro Detroit region and have spent considerable amounts of time and money over those decades there. Much of it was spent in gay-owned and run shops, bars, and restaurants. However, in the past 3 or so years, and I'm sure thousands of other people have noticed that an undeniable and frankly frightening truth of the district. And that being, even before the pandemic, the amount of those longtime destination businesses were either dying a slow death or had already closed. I watched as Barnes & Noble, Mongolian Barbecue, a personal favorite of mine, and Andiamo's, Herman's Bakery, Paris Vintage, Monterey, Incognito, Gentleman's Consignment, and on closed permanently, which left me shocked and saddened. I've heard repeatedly from numerous business owners and employees that the city taking the vast majority of the parking lots and placing them with parking structures proved very problematic to them and caused some of them to close. Andiamo's closure was well publicized and thoroughly chronicled in the news, and I was again astounded because I ate there regularly. I and many of my friends saw and felt that the empty, darkened stores as an inarguable and surprisingly sad state of affairs, apparently due to the astronomical rents and some said poor city/individual business owner relations. Hence, there was no choice but for my friends and I to take our money to Ferndale. Then the pandemic hit. And there went the entire country, and Royal Oak, of course, also, to the point where it is today, or more correctly, is not today. The aforementioned and the following are the reasons for this statement. It's genuinely astounding that the City Council is threatening to close down C&J Hammerheart Accessories when Royal Oak has faded, inarguably, to a distant number 2 behind Ferndale in terms of foot traffic and dollars spent. Stevie Wonder could see it. With Royal Oak formerly having the reputation of being friendly to small businesses and, hopefully not, the gay community, a small store that is gay-owned and run, being labeled as an adult shop, simply does not make sense. The same products that are in the store can be found at any mega chain drugstore or supermarket. Also, the fact that the safeguards have been put in place to keep underage people out of the store also reinforces the fact that they will be kept out. I'm sorry, okay, yes, again, only 2% of the store's entire inventory can be considered as adult intimate accessories, and the fact that the city is considering to endure another closed, vacant storefront in this day and age when retail business is dying a very fast death really makes no sense at all. Thank you.
Yes, sir, you may come forward.
Hello, my name is Greg Owen, and I live in Pleasant Ridge. I'm a neighbor. Just a couple thoughts. I was going to say, my first thought when I heard about all this, I thought to myself, Lover's Lane is thriving, and Noir Leather, we know about that one too. That's pretty racy stuff over there. That's okay, this one's not. I'm just trying to figure that one all out too. And also, I was going to say, for years, the harness thing, people are thinking of this as a sexual item, and this is the first time I ever thought of it as overtly sexual. I just think of it as like a variations of a fashion item, more like a vest or something like that, just an updated thing, that sort of stuff. And then also, if you look at the picture, you can see the building is on Main Street, which I thought was a non-residential street. That's all, just a couple thoughts. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Anyone else for a comment?
I'm another neighborhood resident, and I'm here tonight because I'm opposed to the Hammerheart store doing business in its current location. The business has redefined itself over and over: adult novelty store, smoke shop, accessory shop, underwear shop, each time making it sound more benign than the time before. And this is merely lipstick on a pig. Changing the description does not change the intent, and I will quote from the owner's own words taken from their website. Our passion is still with the sex toys, so we do still offer our full online store to our customers. We just aren't able to display them in our store, which we are hoping over some time we will be able to change that. And I just ask, who will police that to make sure that such a time never comes? I really don't care about their lifestyle, but I do care about my neighborhood and the kids that go to school a block away. Selling bubble gum and lollipops won't hide the fact that this is an adult store operating 2 blocks from the Royal Oak Middle School and 1 block from the Olive Branch Daycare. We mustn't look at kids as if they're small adults. They are children, and we need to respect that. I'm not naive. I know they will see and hear things that are not age appropriate, but that doesn't give us license to be blatant about such things or to give up trying to protect their innocence. They present themselves to the city as an above-board business owner that's trying to do the right thing, but in the background, he paints anyone that's opposed to his business as a homophobe from the dark ages that doesn't like sex. When he takes to social media as his alter ego Jack's Hammer, he appears unhinged and unstable. He addresses people as Karens, shaming parents, and going as far as to suggest that someone tell their son to walk a different way home from school, that their ignorance shouldn't be tolerated, and that they should sit the F down and shut the F up. These rants are unsettling and they're threatening, and so much so that we have neighbors who fully support us but are afraid to come and speak. If this business has nothing to do with sex and vice versa, I'd like to know why sex is the basis of nearly every post. I will leave you with one more of his quotes. For all of those out there looking to open a business, avoid Royal Oak because they are a-holes. Now I know why they call it Royal Joke. Give your business and tax money to a different city because they don't deserve it. I say to them, you knew what you were doing when you moved into that location. It's time to stop playing the victim, and I implore you to follow your own advice. I'm a tax-paying citizen of Royal Oak. I can't park my car in front of my house without a permit, and yet you have let a non-conforming business operate for months in an area that zoning does not permit. Your vote tonight will be a clear sign of the regard you have for your citizens and their children. Thank you.
Any other comments? Going once?
Hi, my name's Matt. I also live in the neighborhood, and I'm a resident of Royal Oak. And I have 2 sons, and I know you said not to reiterate what has already been spoken, but I'm going to speak for the kids that can't speak, that don't know what this store offers inside and what they see as they walk by it, as they wait for the light to change. Kids, they get in enough trouble as it is, let alone their curiosity gets them in trouble as well. Their friends get them in trouble. I hear my 2 sons talk about at lunch, how the other son bet them to do something. And I know being in around a school and in a neighborhood that kids don't know exactly what's inside, but the curiosity is what kills the cat. The curiosity is what get children in trouble. And so I don't think it's in a good area. I think there's an area for it, and I think even for what they were selling, I think there's a place for it. But I don't think it's there. I just want Royal Oak, the city of Royal Oak, to see this, and to make the right decision. So, thanks.
Yeah. Anyone else for public comment? Going once? Twice? Okay. Before we bring it back here to the board, do you wish us to continue with us being one person down, or do you want us to adjourn to next month and have vote at that time when we may or may not have a full board? It's not guaranteed that next month will be full.
Can I speak more time?
No, unfortunately. Okay, go through it. Okay, we'll bring it back to the side of the board. Discussion and/or motions. Yes, Mr.
I have a question for Mr. Murphy. I did go and visit this site as well, and when I walked in there, my immediate thought was that it was very similar to another business that is in our downtown zone, and there are other businesses in other zones that may not be zones for adult businesses that sell similar novelties and undergarments and things. Do those other places have variances? Is that how they are allowed to operate? And I believe somebody mentioned one of them this evening, so I'm just curious.
Sure, the two that were referenced were Nora Leather downtown, and they've been an establishment in existence for quite some time, certainly before the specific language that you find in the zoning ordinance with regard to adult retail. They precede that. And the other establishment that came up in conversation was the Lover's Lane on Woodward Avenue, and they have a settlement agreement that allows them to sell a certain percentage or floor area of their stock as adult items.
Are either of those two locations in a neighborhood business district?
The Lover's Lane is on Woodward Avenue in the general business zoning district, so it's actually allowed to operate as, under the current ordinance provisions, it's allowed to operate as an adult retailer as a special, under the status of a special land use approval. And the other business that was referenced, Nora Leather, is in the central business zoning district, and that business district does not allow for adult-oriented retail establishments, as neither permitted nor a special land use.
Thank you.
Questions? Mrs.
So this again from Mr. Murphy. So if this business was in the general business zoning, that would not be an issue, is that correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the?
If they were not in the neighborhood business, but were in a general business area, that would make a difference?
Certainly would. They would have to find a site that meets the standards.
Okay.
There are some distance requirements associated with establishing an adult retail business.
But it would be more conducive to this kind of business than...
It's a special land use. Of the two different categories of land uses in every single zoning district, either permitted uses, by right permitted uses, or the other column, which are special land uses, an adult retail establishment is a special land use in the general business zoning district.
One more for Mr. Murphy.
Ms. Ukin?
So if we decide that the only issue before us is whether or not this is an adult-oriented business, if we decide that it is, they still have the option of filing for a variance to operate that kind of business there, correct?
Yes, and because this site is in the neighborhood business zoning district, again, this type of establishment is neither a permitted use nor a special land use, so they would need to come immediately back in front of you for a use variance, as well as seeking variances from those distance requirements to nearby residential, nearby religious institution, nearby daycare, nearby school, whatever those they may or may not meet, they would need to seek variances for those. So, but they would need to do that immediately.
And if we find that they're not an adult business, they don't have to go through that process?
No, they would be, they applied for a sign permit. The building division would process their sign permit and allow them to continue to operate with no further review whatsoever.
Mr. Clay, so the question I have is how, from an enforcement standpoint, let's say we do, they're allowed, right? Let's say, is it monthly, is it yearly? Does someone come in and inspect? How does that process work to enforce it? Let's say, for example, how does that happen, or what happens?
I'm looking at Ryan. That is incredibly difficult. Whether you have a settlement agreement, any kind of consent judgment issued by a judge, all of those are incredibly challenging to coordinate the timing and the inspection and what type of enforcement provisions. Those type of agreements have enforcement provisions. It would be incredibly challenging for us to, I'm going to say, play that cat and mouse game and then issue tickets and then, no, we'll change our business plan again, don't issue us a ticket, and then you come back another 3 months later and they're back to selling items that they were told they couldn't, and then you are issuance of tickets again. I'm going to say that we've already been through that, hence we're here. You know, we had started to have conversations with them in November, and it was, we'll change this, or we'll change that, or what can we sell and what can't we sell. That's not staff's function, is to tell them how to operate their business. It's for us to respond to them based on what they want to sell, to provide them with an approval process. So I dislike providing individuals with, you can and can't sell this specific items, because it's not our function.
The only, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's still specific items that are on their inventory list that if they removed, they could stay in operation.
If the board would like to discuss those exact items, you may do so.
I'm just kind of curious. I mean, they sound like they're willing to be flexible in their inventory. I'm just uncertain what on the list they would have to get rid of, I guess. And so
that's a conversation that you can have individually and collectively with them if you so choose.
I think it's worthwhile.
I guess my question too is, I mean, we've been kind of concentrating on like the sexually explicit stuff, but there's also a lot of things related to smoking, which is also, I would say, adult and not, at least 18 and over. And that seems to be, there seems to be a decent amount of that as well in the store. It's just a comment.
Okay. Is there any motion or other comments? Yes, Ms. Rose.
I'd like to make a motion that our zoning board of appeal affirms the determination of the zoning administration that the applicant's business operation is an adult-oriented commercial enterprise.
Okay, is there a second? Ms. Zukin. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Robinson.
I just think that what we've had from the public here has talked a lot about what the store is and what it really is. I live right there in the neighborhood myself, and it is adult-oriented. There's the pictures that I've seen, what's in the window that I've seen, the smoking paraphernalia. If it was in a different zoning, I think it would be that the place is in the wrong, it's the wrong place for that store.
Ms. Zukin, is there anything else?
No, I would just add that we're not here to render an opinion as to whether or not a sexually oriented store is a good or a bad thing. It's whether or not you are one, and whether or not it's permitted. We're not even asked whether or not it's permitted under this or under the zoning. So I think it's pretty clear it's a sexually oriented store, and that's why I'm supporting the motion.
Mr. Moore.
I won't support the current motion the way that it's phrased, because I would have preferred to have a discussion on what they could remove from their store to not be an adult-oriented store, because in visiting the site, I don't particularly find rainbow novelty merchandise and leather goods to be adult-oriented when you can see the same stuff in other stores in the city. And I think that they've shown a willingness to adjust their merchandising, and if there was 2.1% of things left on their inventory list, they may have been able to whittle that down. So I would have preferred a discussion on that, so I can't support the current motion.
Other comments? Mr. Gavin.
I was a little torn on this one, but I think ultimately I'm going to come down in favor, partially because we're being asked if the zoning administrator committed an error, and I think it's a bit of a judgment call, and I don't necessarily disagree with them. There was, ample materials there that I felt like we're coming down on deciding whether something's substantial or a substantial amount of their inventory or a significant amount of their inventory, and you can start getting into the weeds on what percentage of it is going to reach that threshold. But I think ultimately when you kind of look at it holistically, I think there's enough there to support the determination that it is an adult-oriented business. So I'll be in favor.
Okay. Other comments?
I just want to respond to Mr. Moore if I can. The fact that you can see those items other places is not relevant, I don't think, because they are in stores that are, and it's not rainbow or leather, it's the other things. They are in stores that are permitted to be where they are, and they are adult stores. And this is a different situation. We're just being asked to say, is this an adult-oriented store? And that's why I'm supporting the motion.
Mr. Clay.
Yeah, I struggled a bit too with this. The business is unique. It is different. Sure, they sell items that they're not in traditional retail, but I struggle with the word substantial. I look at things more percentage-based, and I just don't see that. When I visited the store, I did notice a substantial amount of apparel with a minor percentage of items that would be, I guess, adult-oriented. So I struggle with the term. That's my take.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? I'll make a couple of comments. One in regards to wanting to do a discussion on what's allowed or not. Although I agree that would be nice, I don't think this board is the judging board as to what should be allowed or shouldn't be allowed, what's considered to be adult orientated, what's not considered to be adult orientated. The question is more along the lines, is this an adult orientated store versus a store that can be open to families to come in? So the question is, in my mind, is this a store that you'd want a family to come in? And it doesn't matter the lifestyle of that family. Just, is this a family store that any age can come in, or is this not? For example, yes, big box stores may have certain elements, small amounts of this in them, like lubricants, but they're not of the same name that some of these names are. So the question is, again, would you take a family in this store or would you not? That's where I see with the adult oriented. And I don't think it's staff's job to determine whether or not certain products are adult orientated or not. In my view, this is similar to Noir Leather or Lover's Lane, but a little more classier. It's a little bit, got more adult orientated stuff than Chrome did. So in my opinion, it's got the smokes too. Smokes are of a certain age, even if they're for art or displaying. It's not something that all ages can go in. So that's where I feel my case is in supporting this motion as it's considered adult oriented. I have no problem with them being a business. I have no problem being an adult oriented business. I'm just agreeing with what staff has came down as to what determination adult oriented is versus not.
Mr. O'Fay, can I make a quick
Yes,
statement
yes.
just for the board generally? Now, there's a lot of discussion about adult-orientated and talking about the items for smoking, but if the board can just kind of focus on the definition that we're looking at as to the sexually explicit matter, and focus more on that. It's not about, is this something for adults? Is it sexually explicit based on the definition that's in the ordinance? So if I want to just try to refocus the board to take a look at that, as opposed to, is it for adults or kids, or is there smoking paraphernalia? Is it sexually explicit matter?
Mr. Clapp.
But just a question on that, isn't it a substantial portion of sexually explicit matter, correct?
Well,
that is the definition.
Yeah.
Substantial or significant. Yeah.
Amount of sexually explicit.
Again, that's, yeah. Mr. Moore, sorry.
So just a follow-up to your statement that, you didn't feel that it was our place to determine their inventory or, I also, feel that if we're looking at the specifics here on sexually explicit, taking out anything to do with smoking or anything, you're looking at very small numbers here, even by their own inventory lists, and I do feel that it's worth a discussion to see what can be eliminated if we were, getting rid of the enhancement devices, which I think, in here somewhere they said is 2.1% of their inventory. Then do they comply? So I feel that it would have warranted a discussion, and the numbers matter when it says substantial. So
I have a problem with the location, and that's my biggest concern, is that this is so close to the junior high school, middle school. What do we call that now? I'm saying the wrong term.
Middle school.
Middle school. And that's, I guess, my biggest concern for just what it is, and the candy that's being sold there. And then yet there's bongs that look like genitalia, whatever, those kinds of things. I just don't think that kids should be exposed.
Well, I understand your concern with that. This is...
That's in the wrong place. That's that's my big thing, is that the zoning is wrong for this.
Right, but this variance is regarding whether or not staff made the right decision in calling it an adult-oriented business.
And that's what I agree with.
Nothing with the location.
Location, okay. We'll just in a different place.
All right, if there's no other discussion, we'll go forward with the vote, because there is a motion on the floor. Okay, please signify by saying aye and raise your hands.
Let's state the motion again.
This motion is to agree with staff's zoning administrator's determination that petitioner's business of operation is adult-oriented commercial enterprise. So all those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand to make sure there's, for the record. Okay. And those against? All right.
Motion carries.
The motion carries. So we have affirmed the staff's position. Thank you. If you want, we'll take a 3-minute break for us before we start the next one to allow anyone who wants to leave go ahead or use the restroom. Yes, Mr. Clark.
Mr. Chair, I'll need to recuse myself from the next case regardless. Although my firm has no involvement with the Fireheads case tonight, we do have financial gain with other dealings with them, so I'll need to recuse myself.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark. Okay, so Mr. Murphy, case number 22-02-07-2209 Vincetta Boulevard.
Well, I'm going to bring up their photograph first for some context. So this site is a 3-sided lot. It's got frontage on Vincetta, Murdoch, and Lloyd. And in 2017, the petitioner, the property owners, they obtained a host of variances, and one of those variances was to build this detached garage that you see. And it's taller than average, and they obtained a variance request associated with being able to do that. And the ground floor of the garage is accessed to be obviously the 3 overhead doors, and then there's a side entry man door. It's got a basement, a little unique, and it's got a basement. It's got the ground floor, obviously, and the second floor that's accessed via an internal staircase. So I'm going to scroll down to their floor plan, and that'll make a little more sense. If you recall, exactly a year ago, they were here for same variance requests. And the petitioner has indicated that this structure has separate electrical service, temperature control systems, elements of insulation, finished walls, trim, and a sewer line that leads exclusively to the sump pump in the basement. And they're looking to add an additional utility a water line or separate water service line to this building. And the zoning ordinance has provisions in it which prohibit an accessory structure, or this garage, from containing a combination of utilities, and that would allow it to be converted to a living space or habitable space. And the petitioner has expressed their interest in providing the the water line, and you can see on the floor plan that they illustrate on the second floor plumbing fixtures, and it creates a separate habitable space that's independent of the main house. The floor plan on the screen illustrates cabinetry, countertops, water spigots, sinks, refrigerator, electrical outlets, and also has a bathroom with water spigot, sink, and toilet. And the main area is controlled climate condition space. Zoning ordinance has definition which it defines a dwelling as a building or portion of a building which is used as a residence, contains no less than a kitchen, bath, and bedroom, living room, quarters. The second story has the ability to function as a separate dwelling unit. And this site's in the one-family residential zoning district, which only allows for one dwelling unit, which is the main house. So the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive the prohibition of the combination of utilities to the structure so that they can add the water service line. And they intend to use it as shown exactly on the floor plan. So if the board does grant the variance request, they would be bound to utilize it exactly as it's identified on the floor plan. If they want to operate it and convert it further to a separate living space, the board would need to grant them a use variance in order to do that. Now I'll point out that that's staff's determination based on what they provided to us. Similar to last year, and then similar to last year, we'll see if the petitioner has the same comments, but last year they expressed that they had absolutely no intent of creating a separate unit. And so they withdrew that variance request, and we can see what that conversation is again this year. But it's listed as a variance request because it is a potential variance, so you could grant them if they choose to continue to move forward. And I can answer any questions that you might have prior to having a conversation with them.
Okay. Mr. Moore.
So if this garage was an attached garage and this was part of the home, this wouldn't be necessary, correct?
Yeah, as long as it met the setback requirements. And when we say attached garage, I want to make the explicit caveat that there's a way to get from the second story of the house to the second story of space above the garage. You don't have to go back downstairs or through a breezeway and back up. I'm going to give the worst case scenario. Every conversation I've ever been presented with is a resident who has a beautiful new home and a beautiful new detached garage, almost 50 feet separating the two. And they wanted to add a full second story above their garage and connect the two with a 50-foot breezeway, and said they were trying to argue that that's an attached garage. So you can take it to the extreme in the concept, but we would constitute it as an attached garage if the two structures, if they were physically connected, and there was a way to get on the second floor from the main house to the space above the garage, that would be an attached garage. We could have a separate kitchen, we could have a separate bedroom, no separate entrance. It couldn't be quartered off, but it could be a continuous floor plan, and there would be absolutely nothing that would prohibit them from doing that.
Okay, so like a second floor hallway. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Continuous.
Absolutely, we see that very commonly.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Murphy?
Yeah,
I just
had one. Now, if we're just looking at variance request A, that doesn't involve intent, correct? Intent only applies to whether they want a use variance?
Yes, that's correct. So the first variance, there's a provision which says there can't be the combination of utilities because it clearly allows for making a habitable space. Whether, and they've identified how they would like to use it. So they're seeking a variance request to add that water line, which clearly at that point has all the utilities to make it a habitable space. And if you grant the first variance request A, they would be restricted to what they've identified on the floor plan, using it in that fashion. If they used it as a place where they rented it out or they had individuals stay overnight or what have you as a separate unit, unless you give them the use variance to do that, they would be unable to do that, and we would be able to enforce that upon them.
Ms. Robinson?
Which, does it run with the land? I mean, if they sell a house 50 years from now, and this is like, almost like a separate unit, can the next person use it as an apartment if they wanted to?
Well, then, if you grant variance request A, any of the variance requests that you grant are bound with the property. So if you granted variance request A and either denied B or they withdrew B, any future owner would be able to use the property as exactly as this floor plan is shown. They wouldn't be able to use it as a separate dwelling unit because you wouldn't have granted that variance.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Murphy?
I have a question. The livable space, it just mentions a bathroom without mentioning if there needed to be a shower in the bathroom or not.
Oh, yes, that would constitute a separate dwelling, is a kitchen facility, a full bath, and a living space. Clearly, this floor plan illustrates a sink and a toilet. There's no shower component.
Right.
But if they are provided the variance to allow, if you provide them with variance request A and B, there would be nothing that would prohibit them from installing a shower or a full kitchen on the second floor or in the lower level, the basement. The basement does have a window well.
Other questions from Mr. Murphy? I do. I have a couple. One, I know there was discussion last time about Planning Commission thinking about accessory structures and livability. There hasn't been any changes in that, correct? They still are against that? And
well, I won't say they're against it.
Okay.
That conversation came up prior to this time last year, and the Planning Commission had asked staff to provide some research and some suggested language with regard to allowing for accessory dwelling units in certain zoning districts. And so we did provide that to the Planning Commission, and they discussed it, and they determined, I'll go back, step back a little bit, an accessory dwelling unit is to allow for an additional dwelling unit that's accessory to the primary house. And those are found typically in spaces above a garage, such as this, or a separate, smaller scale outbuilding that's a separate living unit. And so that's an accessory dwelling unit. And we had provided the Planning Commission with some draft language and extensive research. And they discussed it at one particular meeting, and they collectively came to the conclusion that they felt that the topic was better left to the outcome of a master plan, and whether the community at whole or in specific portions of the community felt that accessory dwelling units may or may not be appropriate. So they talked about the topic, but they have not taken any action to currently allow for that.
okay, thank you. That was one thing. Number two, granted, if we grant A and they go ahead and use it for what they have, but then say a month later after they finish doing it, they sell it, new person comes in, theoretically, the city wouldn't know if that new person went into that space and turned it into a habitable space if they decide not to pull any permits, correct?
That's correct. I think that can be said for a lot of circumstances, but yes, that's correct. That's correct. A possible...
Not saying that would happen, but just...
Yeah. I won't say a possible solution to that, but a possible way to help overcome that scenario may be, should the board grant the variance request, you could make it a contingency that they record the board's motion at the county's register of deeds against the property, so that if anyone was doing a title search to purchase the property in the future, your decision and this particular drawing would show up and they would know this is all you get to use it for.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, may the petitioner come forward and present your case.
John Farhat, 2209 Vincetta. Thank you. Before I start, I just wanted to really quickly answer a couple questions that just came up during that discussion. The garage is attached by a roof line, not interior square footage. So you can walk from my garage to my house without getting rained on, snowed on. It's completely covered. The city is not recognizing it as attached because there's no square footage that connects it. So to answer your question, if it was attached, yes, the variance would not be needed. So we don't have to split hairs on what the word attached means, but that's the answer to your question. There was a question about future use. I don't know if this is possible, but I would be willing to put some type of a restriction at the city level that says if we sell it, whatever the city needs to have comfort and that the use that we're explaining is truly our intent, we are willing to work with the city on that. Inspections, you name it. There was one other question about, oh shoot, there were three. You had asked a question, Samantha, I'm sorry, about...
I just asked about like if a shower needed to be in
Oh,
the bathroom.
I'm sorry, shower. So as we have it proposed, we are looking for a powder room and a wet bar. My wife is going to get into some of the specifics of the language in the city and what they consider what things, but our intent is not to put a bathtub or a shower or to have any cooking facilities whatsoever. I think that lightly addressed a few of those questions. Again, my name is John Farhat. For those of you who don't know me, this is my wife, Julie. Our 4 children are at home with my parents right now since it's kind of late and it's a school night. But I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background about myself. I grew up in Royal Oak. I live here. I was born and raised actually 15 doors down from where I currently am raising my own family. A lot of the same neighbors that are on my street today were there when I was this big. I went to Shrine Grade School. I went to Jane Addams Junior High. I went to Kimball High School. My roots run pretty deep in this community. My parents moved in here in 1977. My dad was actually in the Planning Commission for 9 years. My mom's a retired teacher at Shrine. My dad's a retired general manager of Red Run Country Club in Royal Oak for the past 14 years. I have 2 local brothers, a local sister, a number of nieces, nephews, cousins. My family is rooted in this city. We're not going anywhere. We stand for things like honesty, integrity, family, community. These are things that are important to us. And it's disappointing to see some of the language that has been used to describe what we are asking, which we believe is nothing of the sort. I'm a member of the Royal Oak Chamber. I have a local real estate office blocks from here. I have a local construction company. I won't get into the charitable work that I do along with my wife in this city, but I can assure you some of the concerns that this board has, as well as some of the neighbors, hopefully we will be able to alleviate some of those concerns tonight. I'm a 2-time Home Beautification Award winner. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's given out to one resident once a year to a project that they feel transforms the neighborhood. I've won it twice. It's given out 1 time per year. I've built over 70 houses in this city. I've moved over 300 families in and around this city. There's a lot of misconceptions about me, about my family. I take this personally. I got a card sent to my house that says I want a use variance. What? What? Last year we went over this. We took it out. Nothing that I have described or submitted says I want a use variance. Why are we even talking about it? I have a big house if you haven't noticed. I have 4 children. I have 25 people between my mother, father, siblings, and nieces and nephews that live in Royal Oak. I'm a builder. It's not that crazy that I have a big, nice house. My family has been trying to redevelop this community for over a decade. And when I say my family, my wife and I. My extended family for decades. I get living next to construction is difficult. I deal with neighbors every day. When my sign goes up in the ground, I get calls. But the difference is my sign goes up. I'm not sure if you drive around Royal Oak, but there's a lot of build sites. There's a lot of sites that have a lot of conditions that are less than stellar. I would challenge you to drive by one of my sites and find that condition. My cell number is on the sign of every house I build in the city. My personal cell. If you call me, I will call you back. If you have an issue, I will address it. I'm not just a builder who comes here, makes money, and leaves. I live here. This is my community as much as it is yours. When I built my house, it did take a couple years. It was a big project, and I did it myself. 0 times was code enforcement called to my house while I built it. 0. I didn't have any building violations. I go above and beyond to keep a clean job site. Not only did I sweep the street, but I actually hosed it down. I'm not sure how many of you have ever seen a builder hosing a street down in front of one of their job sites before, but I can assure you I've done it dozens of times. There's a few letters that you guys probably reviewed from a few neighbors that had some concerns. I'm not mad at those neighbors. I would have the same concerns. If you think that I want to have an Airbnb above my garage, vote no. If you think I'm going to run retail business out of my garage, vote no. I won't name names, but I believe this resident knows who she is. She says that we're past the upheaval COVID has inflicted. And there were members of this board 1 year ago that said COVID was temporary. Yet I'm still standing here with a mask, as are all of you. Two months ago, I lost a family member to COVID. My kids were out of school for 51 weeks last year. This year, my 4th grader, she's been quarantined twice. Because if more than 3 kids in her class have COVID at a time, the whole class is sent home for a week to do virtual school. I understand the concerns if somebody thinks I want an Airbnb. I don't want an Airbnb. Whatever you need to do to enforce that, I'm agreeable to. I'll pay an annual inspection. You can deny a rental license if I ever apply for one. I'm incredibly connected in the city from a real estate perspective. I own 0 rental properties. I have never owned a rental property in the city of Royal Oak. And I will go on record saying that I will never rent my house out, or a portion of it, to anyone ever. That's not why I built it. One of the neighbors was concerned that their street's going to turn into a parking lot because I'm running 3 businesses out of my home. Well, let me describe those 3 businesses to you. I'm a realtor. I think Nancy can attest to this. I don't have many clients come to my house. I'm not showing them my house because it's not for sale. And if you want me to tell you what your house is worth, I need to go to your house. I run a construction company. I don't work with clients. I spec houses only in the city of Royal Oak. 100% of my business is in the city of Royal Oak. I spec houses. What would people be doing at my house? My wife runs a nonprofit called Mind Over Matter, which she will talk to you about in a minute. She doesn't have people coming to our house either. We want to work from home on occasion. I'm not looking to run 3 home businesses out of my home. That's very different. I think the implications with the postcard that was sent out was very misleading. And I understand why these people are concerned. I would have the same concerns. If the board is really concerned about Airbnbs, I ask you this. Today, there are 162 available in the city of Royal Oak. The only restriction is that I have a rental license. That's it. If the city wants to regulate Airbnbs, let's do it. But to tell me that I can't add a utility because I might, in the future, convert it to something that maybe I'm going to Airbnb, that's a stretch. And if that truly was your fear, my question is this. In 2 minutes, I found a detached apartment above a garage with a full bath in Royal Oak that, since I was denied 365 days ago, has 122 reviews. That means I can prove it has been rented 122 times since you told me I couldn't have a toilet and a sink. I have 4 young daughters. I can assure you that safety is my top priority. My garage is 7 feet from my house. If you think I'm going to let a stranger sleep in my garage, I don't think you have children. Our intentions are simple. Some people have had the luxury in the last 2 years to work from home, full-time, part-time, work from a vacation house, take a trip, extend it. My job's not like that. My clients are local. They want to see houses in person. I have build sites going on in the city. I have to be here. So while you might be able to take your laptop and go sit on the beach for 2 weeks, I can't. My little slice of heaven is a small space about 300 square feet above my garage. All I'm asking is to not have to walk outside in the winter to use the bathroom. I have a 2-year-old who's at home, who is a clinger, and every time I leave, she cries. Do you know what it's like to be working and thinking, okay, do I hold my pee or do I make my kid cry? What if I told you that there was not a bathroom in this room, and if you wanted to take a break, you had to walk over to the courthouse to use the restroom? It's kind of weird. I get that I have a lot of bathrooms already in my house. I've heard that argument. It's simple. I want a toilet and a sink so I can use the restroom when I'm working from home on occasion. The last time we were here, people questioned the hardship. Look around us. How is COVID not a hardship? How are we not wanting to keep business owners in this city moving forward by creatively allowing them to continue to work when offices get shut down, when job sites get shut down? The space is already finished. I'm using the space as we speak. It was completely finished months ago. There are photos you can see. I invited everyone on this board to visit in person. Whether you got that invite or came, I don't know. But everyone was afforded the opportunity to walk through my space. There's not a single person on this earth that would know if I put water in there tomorrow. Yet I waited 365 days. I'm $1,400 in application fees, which is probably more than my bathroom itself will cost. And I'm still here asking for permission. So if these 3 letters you believe are accurate, then vote no. I had a tax assessor sitting on my couch in my office about a month ago. A tax assessor from the city of Royal Oak. Do you know that I'm already paying taxes on the space that you're trying to decide if I can have a toilet in? I'm already paying taxes on a space that you're asking if I can use a restroom in. I know for a fact that I have the highest residential tax bill in this city. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. This is my city. And I think I deserve to be treated with equal respect. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm just asking for equal.
Sorry, we're not known for being brief in our family, but at least you guys got a little break this year. I think last time we went out at 9 p.m. and no one had a chance to use the restroom, so glad that restroom's right there. My name is Julie Farhat. I'm also a lifelong Royal Oak resident. John and I were both born and raised here. As John mentioned, his family of 8 lived down the street from our current house, and my family of 6, we grew up right across from Star J.C. Park. I have memories here of paying what you weigh at the ground round, going out for Gino's Hot Fudge Sundays at the Rams Horn. I remember shopping at Woolworths, F&M, and Sherman Shoes. I never thought I would sound like an old person where I have these memories, but here I am. I'm 40 years old, and I've spent my entire life in this city, trying to improve this city where I live. I graduated with a bachelor's in chemical engineering and worked for General Motors before fulfilling my dream job of working at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. I spent 8 years working for EPA's Office of Transportation and Air Quality, helping to create motor vehicle fuel regulations. So I have a little experience with regulations and finding my way around them and how confusing they are, just because they're all kind of created at different times and stitched together. My team was responsible for taking the lead out of gasoline in the 80s, reducing sulfur content of gasoline and diesel, and reducing gasoline benzene. In 2005, at the very start of my career, I lost my mother to suicide after a painful battle with schizophrenia. Put a little detour in life, but I was definitely devastated at the time, but I made a conscious decision that I was going to turn my pain into purpose right here in Royal Oak. I started a grassroots nonprofit organization called Mind Over Matter, lovingly referred to as MOM, and began the annual MOM Race for mental health awareness and suicide prevention right here in Royal Oak the first week in May. To date, my 5K charity run walk has raised $500,000 for local brain research, suicide prevention programming, and crisis intervention services. MOM has helped to bring powerful music-based suicide prevention assemblies to Royal Oak Middle School and Royal Oak High School students. I am currently working on establishing a survivors of suicide group here to support Royal Oak residents that have been touched by suicide, including those impacted by the recent suicide of 17-year-old Noah London. I've been invited to provide recommendations to the Royal Oak School Board on ways we can further improve our school's efforts. I currently serve on the Northwood Elementary PTA as the Reflection Art Program Coordinator and the Field Day Chair. I'm also part of the Royal Oak Interclub Council, which meets monthly to share ideas and promote philanthropic efforts throughout the city. I recently joined Royal Oak Empowered, a new committee dedicated to creating open dialogue on social, emotional, and other issues facing our community. The first meeting is next week at the Senior Center. I was inducted into the Royal Oak High School Hall of Fame in 2016 and was also recognized in 2019 as a Citizen of the Year by the City of Royal Oak for my philanthropic work. I've never taken a salary or a stipend for any volunteer work I've ever been involved with. I am fueled solely by my passion for causes I believe in, and also by coffee. You've received a number of letters from members of the community that know us, our neighbors, our colleagues, our friends, fellow Royal Oakers, who attest to the character of John and Julie Farhat, who we are, how we raise our family, what we're doing for the community. Do we sound like people with questionable intentions that cannot be trusted? If so, why would we spend our time and money to be here for a second year in a row asking for permission to add water so my husband can go to the bathroom in his office? Or when I'm sneaking away when I pay for a babysitter and realize I still can't work in my home office because she finds me, I can go up there and work in peace and quiet. I'm not a helicopter parent, but I'm definitely protective. My family means the world to me. My oldest daughter will be 10 next month, and she's still in a booster seat because of her size. My entire family is mad at me for making them wear this kind of mask now because our pediatrician said that cloth masks just aren't doing it for Omicron. I don't let my kids order lunch every day because they always come home complaining that they're starving, no one eats it, and because I don't want them to drink chocolate milk every day. I'm a protective parent. Do I sound like someone who would welcome an Airbnb in my garage, giving a complete stranger access to an area where my children play, my 4 daughters, ages 9, 7, 5, and 2. If we were desperate to be in the rental business, don't you think we'd be in it by now, like John stated? My husband buys and sells houses for a living. Don't you think we would have found a better rental that wasn't on our property? Don't you think our first rental property wouldn't be a non-marketable, non-habitable, 300 square foot living space 7 feet from our home? If we were interested in a rental property close to home, why wouldn't we have just applied for a lot split in 2012 when we purchased our Vincetta lot? We could have had our income property right there. Would our neighbors have liked that more than a satellite office used exclusively by our family? I think it's really important to note that some of the 2 duplicate comments you received were from Murdoch neighbors that are right by our construction entrance. Unfortunately, we moved in 1 month before the pandemic. I have not had a chance to meet all my neighbors. These neighbors happen to be right by the construction entrance. So they hear some trucks. They're living through construction temporarily. And I get that in this city, you say the word Vincetta and you say the word builder and everyone thinks he's a crook. Remember that one guy that did that one thing on Vincetta? I don't think that's fair. There are stereotypes about politicians too that aren't always true. I don't think it's fair to be treated like a criminal when our reputation is quite the opposite. I'm asking for you to look at facts, not fears, and give us fair consideration using your best judgment and authority, which comes from the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, Act 110 of the Public Acts of 2006. While it's clear that you might not be following all the parts of that act, as the state of Michigan recommends a ZBA board with 2 alternate board members in the event of an absence or a conflict of interest like tonight, I do trust that you understand your responsibility. Your job is to interpret the applicability of the Chapter 770 zoning ordinances, including their purpose and their intent. Your job is to listen to the case at hand and cast your vote, not concern yourselves with past decisions or future decisions. And your job as a quasi-judicial body should be to make independent, impartial decisions, not be easily influenced by other members of the board. What happened last time was unacceptable, in my opinion. People changing their votes after they heard other people's votes, unacceptable. We are requesting 1 variance and 1 variance only from the City of Royal Oak, a relaxation of 770-2211. And I'm going to read it because for some reason, this keeps getting paraphrased and it bothers me. This is the law. We need to see exactly what the regulation says. It's the law. So I'm going to read it for you. 770-22 accessory buildings. I'm not going to read all of them. There's 12. This already limits the number of people in the city that could even have an accessory structure that would be useful. When you limit the height and you limit the size and you limit, there are only so few people that could ever do anything with a garage. In our case, yes, was it a perfect scenario that our garage had an attic? Is the reason that attic was there so we could sneak and have an Airbnb? No? Have you considered another possibility? That we have a 26-foot high, tall house. Can you imagine if we had a 13-foot garage? How would that have looked? We're a builder. We care about aesthetics. We spent a lot of money on a good architect. We wanted a house that we were proud of. We wanted a house that would become an heirloom home for our family. So we have a unique home because we're in the construction business, and we had the space that was being underutilized. And then we had COVID, and then we've had 2 years of working from home and being in an environment with 4 young children, which is pretty much the antithesis of productivity, being around young children while trying to work. But anyway, I got distracted. I'd like to read 770-22. An accessory building does not include a combination of services which makes it easily convertible to habitable space. Habitable, emphasis added, habitable. The combination of services may include water, sewer, gas, electric, telephone, and or cable as determined by the zoning administrator. I noticed that several of you went out and checked out the sex shop for the last case, took time out to visit it. Not one person here came to see if they thought our space was habitable. To see if with all the clipped ceilings and the way it's currently configured, someone could turnkey, make that into an Airbnb. You can't list a house without a bathroom or without a kitchen. So I think that's really important that we actually look at the law when even considering the first variance. Now, I'd like to address the second variance, hopefully once and for all. This use variance, I'd love to see the actual language. I think the gist of it is if we're using something not for its intended purposes. So I just wanted to read again actual definitions, and let's just piece it together for everyone who's listening. But first, I want to reiterate that we are requesting one variance and one variance only to add water to make it a more functional space. We're not establishing a home business in a residential neighborhood. We're simply looking for a more private and comfortable space to work. Under 770-8, an accessory building is defined as a supplementary building or structure on the same lot of the parcel land as the principal building, occupied or devoted exclusively to an accessory use. An accessory use is defined as a reasonably and customarily incidental and subordinate to the principal use of the premises. Now, there is no doubt, I don't think anyone here would dispute, that our garage is an accessory structure that's being used in a fashion that is subordinate to our home. You can play out worst case in your brain. We start working from home 2 hours a day. Look at my husband's line of work. You think he stays anywhere for 2 hours? 2 hours here, 1 hour here. Whatever use we use that space that we've already been permitted to finish without water will always be incidental to parking our cars in our garage. We're one of those family that actually parks our cars in our garage. My husband is OCD in this respect. We have a 3-car garage. One stall is for wagons and scooters and bikes. The other 2 are for cars, and he wants them parked in there every time we're home. So if you see a car in our driveway, we either have a visitor or we're running an Airbnb. So you can look for that. Our cars are always in our garage. A garage. Oh, what I was going to say about our house being our garage being accessory to our home is I'm a stay-at-home mom, and some days I don't even leave the house at all, except for maybe to walk some trash or recyclables to the garage. A private garage is defined by you as an accessory building of a main building designed or used primarily for the storage of motor-driven vehicles, boats, house trailers, and similar vehicles owned and used by the occupants of the building to which it's accessory. Even using our garage, like I said, for a couple hours here and there, there's no doubt that it's still being primarily used to house vehicles and lawn equipment. Like I said, we're some of the only people that use our garage this way. Do people that fill their garages with junk, do they need a use variance? They're not using it for parking motor vehicles in it. They might have furniture they aspire to rehab or sell. Sports they've abandoned. Are those people not using their garages for their intended purposes, and do they too need a use permit in this city? We would find lots of people that need use permits if that's the case. A dwelling. A dwelling is defined, I'm going to read this slow and I'm a fast talker. A dwelling is defined under 770-8 as a building or portion thereof which is used exclusively as a residence and containing no less than a kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom/living quarters. The ordinance goes on to define a multifamily dwelling, a single-family dwelling, a single-family attached dwelling, and so on. There's no question that our home located at 2209 Vincetta is a single-family dwelling in a single-family neighborhood. We agree. However, I'm almost done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, yeah. However, a garage, even with a finished office space, with or without water, still does not meet the definition of a dwelling. Section 770-8 does not define a kitchen or bathroom. So when someone doesn't define something, I go to Merriam-Webster. I have the app. They actually are always adding new words to their dictionary. Merriam-Webster defines a bathroom as containing a bathtub or a shower and usually a sink and a toilet. That's right, people. It's the bath that puts the bath in bathroom, not the toilet or the sink. A kitchen is defined as a space such as a room with cooking facilities. Again, the kitchen, it's about what you're cooking up in there. The smells, feeding people. Our existing office space doesn't even have a microwave, let alone a stove. The only appliance on the counter is a printer. And even though it can get hot printing off pages of city regulations, it cannot fry an egg. We made it clear during last year's application process, during our ZBA meeting last February, and again during the application process this year, that we were not applying to create a secondary dwelling. It was a little disappointing to see that language in your findings, and also the subsequent postcard that went out to 65 of our neighbors. We invited those same neighbors to come view the space, to contact us. We could answer any questions. A few took us up and agreed that it was impossible for anyone to live there or sneak a shower in upstairs, given all the clipped ceilings and the way it's configured. I want to close by saying my husband and I are reasonable people. We have nothing to hide. We have invited you to see the space. We have invited you to inspect the space as often as you'd like at our expense to verify that we are not occupying it as a dwelling, nor are we renting it out as an Airbnb. And the ironic part is if the city of Royal Oak was this concerned about Airbnbs, why not just create regulations around that versus having obscure ordinances that prohibit people from being comfortable in their own homes or making the most of accessory structures? Henry Ford Health Centers moved into town. General Motors just announced thousands of new jobs in southeastern Michigan. Is the message we're trying to send to people considering moving to Royal Oak? Move here, but don't you dare get comfortable or do anything that might make your neighbors jealous. We don't trust you, and we're watching you to see if you do anything that might resemble something that could later be easily converted to a habitable living space. Is that what trust looks like?
Ms. Farhat,
By the way, we have no rules against actual Airbnbs in our community. There are hundreds of those, and those are totally fine. You can rent out your entire house or just a room. All you have to do is pay $175, and your neighbors do not have a chance to voice their opinions. What a double standard. Thank you.
All right. Is there any, yes, Mr. Moore?
So I guess...
you can come back up there. Okay. Questions?
A couple things. First, I want to be clear that the previous case is a public business that's open to the public and able to be, entered. And I was not extended an invitation to your property, and I don't usually like to make it a practice to go up to people's doors randomly, especially in a pandemic. So
I can address that.
I apologize if
okay.
you felt slighted at all by that.
No, that's okay. So I reached out directly to the planning department and extended that invite to the entire board. I also extended that invite verbally to another city official that I'm sure all of you work closely with. So without throwing anybody under the bus, I can assure you 2 people who you work with closely were well aware that you had an invite to visit my space.
Okay.
How that was not relayed, I apologize.
Okay. And then my second question is you addressed the use variance. Are you removing that again this year like you did last year?
We didn't want it in the first place, so I guess if we're going to say remove it, sure. We were surprised that it came back in when it was already taken out. But yes, if we want to start there, we would gladly take out the use variance.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Gavin.
Actually, I was intending to ask Joseph about why it was on there in the first place, because I was confused by that as well. And I didn't know if there was a reason for it, or just I kind of wanted to make sure it was clear before they went ahead and removed it. So.
Same proposal as last year, same variance request. Staff determines what variance requests are based on what the petitioner is proposing.
Okay.
Petitioners don't get to list the variance requests that they'd like to seek or not.
Okay.
So we determined that it was a necessary variance. If they can confirm that they had no intention, again, as in the report, if they can confirm that they had no intention of wanting to develop it as a separate unit, as they've chosen to withdraw it, off the table.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure before you guys went and did that.
So is our intent not clear?
No.
No, if it wasn't, I'm sorry. We are 100% on board with removing that.
Staff determined.
I got you. I understand.
So that's fine. You want it removed? We have no problem with removing that. Mr. Moore.
I did have one more thing. Mr. Murphy had mentioned that your intentions for this space could in a way be recorded at the county, that you were using this as an office space and not a separate livable dwelling unit. Is that something that you would be open to?
We don't have problems if there's restrictions that the city feels are necessary to make sure that it's being used for its intended purpose. We would have no problem with that. Okay. Obviously, I would want to review language and know specifics before I agree, but it sounds like something that we would have no issue with.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Ms. Robinson?
Just talking on that point, would that be a deed restriction, Mr. Murphy, that it would only be used for that? Is that
It would just be something that's recorded at the county.
in the deed? Is that what I meant to be understanding? No, not in the deed.
It would just be at the register of deeds,
It's the
something that gets
okay,
recorded,
okay.
and I would suggest, and it's entirely the board's decision, that if you elect to grant them the variance request A, and you approve the minutes next month at your meeting, we would develop that motion for the petitioner, and they would attach that to the report, which includes their floor plan, and it would be, that's what would be recorded at the county. So there would be the official report, which is what they asked for and identified on their floor plan, and the board's motion, which would restrict them from, it would provide notice to any future owner that there was an action taken by this board in precisely what the action was.
Thank you.
Other questions for the petitioner? I have one. I applaud all the effort that you guys do within the city, and I think you are upstanding citizens and whatnot. And you do ask for equality and no special treatment. Being in reality, then you know how many garages out there actually have water within there, and how many are similar to what you're trying to get at. I'm just trying to understand what makes this special case of trying to get this over all the other garages out there that people have come before us and we've denied.
Sure, that's a great question. So first of all, I think what's important is that we talk about our address and tonight, because I think it was pretty clear that precedent or past or future cases should not be considered. So I guess the best way to kind of answer that is, why don't we look at our house specifically and its situation today and pass judgment on that? I don't know why in the past, because I don't know specifically cases where maybe somebody did come in front of you, ask for water, and it was denied. I don't know the petitioner's circumstances. I don't know the board's discussion. So it's hard for me to pass judgment on why my case is different than those without knowing exactly. I think what we're trying to establish is the board understanding that we are already using the space for its purpose. We're not running a business out of our home. We're just working partially from home. And whether we are denied or approved tonight, the intended use of that space is not going to change. The only thing that changes is whether we can have a half bath in it. That's it. It's still going to be used for the same things that it's used for today. I guess that's the other part that I'm a little confused on. The wording of the variance almost seems like we would need the variance in order to use it as living space, but it's already been approved by the city. It was permitted. It was inspected. I'm getting taxed on it. So I'm even confused on the language of needing a variance to make it livable.
To create the living space.
It's already, I guess I'm just a little confused, but it's more of I'm not an attorney. My wife is better with definitions than I am, but I think that was a lot of this case to us was, I think, more confusion than anything. And if it is appearing that we are asking for special treatment, I apologize. That is not the case. We think that we have a garage that is currently used for a use that by adding water, all it does is make the convenience of being in that space a little bit better. Not a single person from the exterior would notice it. And I guess the concerns of the Airbnbs or the other things, we will work with the zoning board to put whatever we need to put in place to make you comfortable, or neighbors or future homeowners or whatever the case may be. I'm confident that our intent is exactly as we are stating it.
And one other thing I want to say about the neighbors, we were thinking about it being a nuisance and the neighbors' concerns, even though there's not going to be any structural changes from the outside. Oh my gosh, now the neighbors on Murdoch, who are however many feet away, might hear a toilet flush. Well, do you want to know what they hear right now? Every time John goes downstairs, he opens the door. What's the other 3 doors? Okay, anyway, he has a staircase so the kids don't, just go mess with the space upstairs and paperwork. But we have to open our garage, close it. Open our house, close it. Go to the bathroom, come out. Open the door, close it. Go back into the garage, close it. So every time someone uses the bathroom, it's at least 4 door slams that the neighbors are hearing, compared to 1 toilet flush. So I don't really know the last time I've heard my neighbor's toilet flush, but if that was a concern, I assure you that would be less of a nuisance than hearing 4 door slams every time someone needs to use the toilet.
Any other questions? One thing to keep in mind, I'll ask you after public comment's done. There's only 7 board members up here. You need 5 affirmative votes. So you're going to have to decide whether or not to delay till next month when we might have 8 because Mr. Klatt would have to still recuse
So
himself.
that was my question. Actually, could I get clarification? So in the event that we deferred to next month, I understand that there would be one more board member who's missing.
Correct.
But are we ever going to see 9 board members?
If Mr. Klatt's still on the board, no, because he would be recuse himself every time.
So we need to get 5 out of 8 instead
Tonight
of
would be
5 out of 9.
7, yes.
But tonight we have to get 5 out of 7.
Correct. So think about that. If you already know you want to delay it, we can have public comment and just do the motion to delay it right after that.
I would like to move forward tonight.
Okay. Well, I'll still ask you after
Sure.
public comment.
Okay.
Thank you. So we'll open up public comment. If anyone has any comments, please come forward. And if you wish, you can state your name.
Good evening. My name is Tricia Link. I'm a resident and homeowner in Royal Oak at 1723 Sycamore Avenue. Tonight I'm going to read to you some excerpts from several Royal Oak residents who prepared and submitted statements in support of the Farhats. So Kelly and Kim Shea, we have been friends and neighbors of both John and Julie Farhat for many years. I have seen many of the homes they've restored and rebuilt in the city of Royal Oak, and I'm always impressed. Their efforts have improved many of the neighborhoods in our city. John and Julie's efforts in charity work is well known. The monies they have raised for mental health and suicide prevention have benefited many. Megan Auerbach. I met the Farhats through Northwood Elementary. Our children go to school together. Julie is an active member of Northwood's PTA. She attends our monthly meetings and serves on the chair for Reflections and Art Program and Field Day. John and Julie's company, Farhat Family Homes, has supported numerous school events. Just this year, Farhat Family Homes sponsored Northwood's annual fundraiser, the Fun Run. Due to the generous support of sponsors, each child at Northwood received Fun Run t-shirts, which they were proudly able to wear at the event. What I admire most about the Farhats, however, is their commitment to mental health awareness. Julie lost her mom to suicide in 2005. Out of this tragedy, in honor of her mom and others lost to suicide coping with mental health, Julie formed a grassroots nonprofit organization and has raised over $500,000 for local research and suicide prevention programs. I can't recommend their character highly enough. We are lucky to have them in our community. Shannon Markoff. From my understanding, the board is concerned they will be renting the space out as an Airbnb. I have been cleaning the Farhats' home for many years. I clean their home and office space in question, and I can say with confidence that the space is just that, an office space. Gina and Craig Mangold. Throughout their lives, the Farhat family has shown us through their actions what kind people they are, the kind of people that work like you do to make Royal Oak a better place and live and raise a family. Through their volunteer work, committees they join, charities they chair, commitment to our schools, the kind of people we are glad to call them our neighbor. We are urging the zoning board to approve the proposed variance. Philip Sobek. I live in Vincetta neighborhood and would like to offer my support to approve the variance for the Farhat residents on Vincetta. The Farhat family has improved the city of Royal Oak tremendously with the construction of all the nice new homes, as well as establishing Mind Over Matter 5K that supports mental health. Dennis Sikowski. I visited the property and I'm convinced by the layout that it cannot be used as a separate residence and there is no room to have a shower or kitchen. I approve of their request. Eric and Anna Meyer. Our family has lived in Royal Oak for over 15 years. We recently built our forever home on Vincetta and are close to the Farhat residents, both in proximity and friendship. We appreciate their addition to the neighborhood and believe they have gone above and beyond to maintain the beauty of the boulevard while increasing the appeal of the city. We feel they have no intention to use the space as a living quarters. They value privacy for their 4 daughters. They would never put in harm's way. I realize my time is up. I have several of these testaments to the Farhats and their youth.
You can hand them to Ms. Robinson.
I think that these have all been submitted also to the city.
Just in case there was any that was new, that's fine. Yes, sir, come forward. Thank you.
Hello. Well, first off, I appreciate the time. I just wanted to come out and show my support of the Farhats. I've only known them for a short period of time, but our daughters are friends. They attend Northwood Elementary together. I actually just recently found out that the Mind Over Matter 5K that I used to run before I had a family with multiple friends was actually organized by Julie's nonprofit. I know we've all had to adapt in a post-pandemic world to things being different. I'm actually really fortunate. For the past decade, I've actually worked remotely. It's been a challenge having to deal with my 2 small children, trying to fend them off when I'm leaving to go to the bathroom, just kind of stepping out of my office because they don't always respect boundaries. And so one thing I always emphasize, because I lead a team of remote people, is that it's really important to create dedicated workspace to be productive and really create that work-home life balance. And I would have loved to have the opportunity to create some creature comforts within my office space to not have to actually walk out. Having a toilet, running water to keep coffee flowing just creates a lot more efficiency, and you don't have to fend off the small kids. As soon as they see you, they want to spend time with you. They don't really understand that separation. And so, I'm proud to live in Royal Oak. The city has adapted really well to support small businesses and families. We've got year-round outdoor dining, Royal Oak Bucks, social district, takeout parking. We've done a lot to adapt to the pandemic. And so I think this is an opportunity to show support for a local business and a family that continuously gives back and positively impacts the community. That's it. I appreciate the time.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Nope. All right, we'll bring it to this side of the table, but before we do you still wish us to go forward?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All righty, is there any discussion and or motions on the table? Mr. Moore.
I'll take a crack at a motion here. I will make a motion to approve the variance A to waive the prohibition of a combination of utilities in a garage accessory structure which create living space, and also add that the specifics of the space and the floor plan be recorded with Oakland County.
Yeah, I think the more appropriate one would be the motion and the staff report be recorded at the county.
Okay, that the motion
if that's what you're intending.
Yes, that the motion and the staff report be recorded at the county.
Is there a second, Mr. Gavin? Mr. Moore.
I will say there's some things in my mind about their property. It's very unique, and I asked the question about the garage because I do believe, like, looking at it, that if they could have attached this and made it differently, they probably would have. It's a very unique shaped lot, and so I think that they have some practical difficulties there with their lot and the way that things are positioned, and I don't believe that their intention is to create an Airbnb or rental space.
Mr. Gavin, anything else to?
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of things because I agree with the points raised, and then I guess I've kind of been reconsidering my position on this, because it's been working at home semi-regular basis for a long time. It is difficult. So, and this is the way things are going. Beyond that, and on top of that, I also have small children, so I've been dealing with that too. Further, the ability to record the resolution here tonight would alleviate a lot of my concerns about putting future homeowners on notice, because that's that was where I was. I've heard of the Farhat family. I know your reputation in the city, and it was my vote previously, or my expressions previously, were not intended to be in any way about you personally. My concern, and I think the concern of this board, often needs to be not just the current homeowner's use, but what the homeowner's use in the future needs to be. So if there's a mechanism we can use to put even people on more notice, I think that would address a lot of my concerns. So recording these, I think, will take at least take a good stride towards that. And I also look forward to seeing how we address this as part of the master plan provisions. So for those reasons, I am going to be in support of it.
Ms. Robinson.
I really love the idea of having like a little house out back, or being able to have an art studio, little thing. And I know that's not part of what our city has right now. And I think a couple concerns, I'm not concerned at all about what you're planning to do. My concern is what happens, I guess the precedents that we set with this for other people. And like, how do we make sure that if somebody wanted to add all these utilities to their garage, how it is built safely or done right or whatever. If we're looking at this like saying this is okay, how we control that in the future. That's been my concern all along. And my other question is like, does this, now that it's like totally finished space, well, it is finished space now, it just doesn't have water, and I guess this is a Mr. Murphy question too, does that add to the square footage, like the reported square footage to the house? Or is it already part of the square footage? I was just curious.
Question for me?
Yeah.
No, because it's a separate structure.
So it doesn't add to the square footage to the house. Okay. And it's still under the same like safety things like smoke detectors and all that stuff, even though it's not part of the square footage. Okay. I just wanted to be clear.
Other comments? Ms. Hukin?
I have no doubt that the Farhats are very good people and have contributed a lot to the community. I have a family member who's purchased a house for Mr. Farhat and he loves it. This is not personal, and I kind of take offense that you think it's personal. We have an ordinance that says an accessory building does not include a combination of services, and we deny this to almost everybody who requests it. The commission, city commission, nor the planning commission has sought fit to change that. And we have an ordinance that sets forth the requirements for granting variances. And you're very familiar with it because you build houses. And I don't think any of the provisions have been met. You're not being restricted from using your property in an unreasonable way. You came before us in 2017, you got 6 variances. You have over a 4,000 square foot house. You have a garage that's taller than anybody else's. You have a garage that's bigger. Not than anybody else's, but you got permission to do all of this. I don't think you're gonna put an Airbnb in. I know you wouldn't put an Airbnb in. There weren't Airbnbs when this ordinance was enacted. But I don't think you have met any of the 4 requirements to show that you have a practical difficulty. And because I want to be even-handed with the whole community, and because we have an ordinance in place, I don't think I can support this.
Other comments? Mr. Reddy, it looks like you're about to say something.
Yeah, sorry. I had concerns similar to Ms. Zukin's, but I thought the points were made to explain the practical difficulty, and I think Mr. Moore, his point about the uniqueness of the lot has alleviated my concerns in that regard. I think there is a unique circumstance with the practical difficulty here.
Any other comments? Ms. Grant? No?
Yeah, I've been waffling back and forth, so I haven't really known what to say. I mean, I could see people's opinions on both sides of this. Like, they've already gotten a lot of variances for building this property. You know, a lot of people are working from home. I live in a 950 square foot house, and my office is currently my dining room table. So I don't see it as like a difficulty. Like, everybody's having those difficulties right now, and I don't know if that really means that we should start granting all kinds of variances for people just because of that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Grant. For me, it's a little tough. I understand where the petitioner is coming from. I grew up not here, but I've lived here almost half my life now. And where I grew up, my dad had a sink in the garage. He had gas in the garage to keep it warm. And I always felt that's something that I wish everybody could have, but the city ordinances don't grant that. This would be a special treatment because we've already granted the variance to allow them to have a larger, taller garage than most garages. Had we not granted that, this probably would not even be before us because you wouldn't have the ability to be in that space. But because we granted that variance, this is before us for this position. So going through the non-use variances, which Ms. Sukin sort of did, they're already using it as an office, so we're not restricting them as a permitted use. It's just for convenience factor to have a toilet in there and a sink in there so they have running water. It's convenience, it's not restricting them from doing it already. Do substantial justice to the applicant? Yes, it would help them out. To other properties in the district? No, because they can't use that facility. And we don't grant this variance to other people because they don't have garages this size. The plight of the landowner is due to unique circumstances of the property. We already talked about it because the variance for the garage height has brought this upon. So the alleged hardship has been created by the person presently with interest in the property. So because of that, and trying to keep it equal to everyone else, I'm going to be against this motion just because of the way it is. Nothing personal at all whatsoever. If there's no other comments, we'll move to vote. Please signify by saying aye and raise your hands for in favor of granting the motion as presented.
All those opposed?
All those opposed? No? Nay? Okay.
So the motion fails.
So the motion fails, so in which case, then to make it clear, it probably is easier to get the opposite motion and for the record?
Yeah.
Just to make it easier?
Make Ryan happy.
Is there someone
Motion to deny.
Is there a motion to deny anyone?
Make
Ms.
a
Sukin?
motion to deny based on discussion that's been had here before.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, we've already discussed enough. Probably if we wanted any discussion anymore, but if they preferred that we had 5 for this motion to carry officially, but right?
Let's do a vote.
Let's do a vote
All those
first.
in favor of the motion to deny.
All those in favor to deny the motion as, or
Approve the motion to deny.
approve the motion to deny, please raise your hand.
Okay. So that motion carries.
So that motion carries. Okay. So, obviously, you guys would deny. Okay, so that's a 4-3 that carries. Okay. So that would be the end of that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So there's no other
Well, we do have
new
an
business.
annual. Correct.
You're right.
Yep.
But we do have other business.
Yep.
The annual report.
Annual report is just for your information purposes, unless you have any specific questions about it. There's no action that's required to be taken by the board, as Mr. Clapp enters the room.
Okay. Is there any comments regarding the annual report? Anyone wants to make a question or inquiry to staff? All right. Seeing none, then we will go to general public comment. Is there anyone here to speak for general public comment? Yep, go ahead.
So I guess my question is, where do we stand now? I understand the last time we failed, I was not told that there is something called an interpretation that we can apply for a variance to. I guess Joseph would be a better person to explain what I'm trying to say. Ask for an interpretation of the ordinance. Is that accurate? We had a discussion that if I thought that the way that the ordinance was written was unclear, that I could apply separately for a determination of, I might be totally messing this up.
Well, I don't, as Anthony had pointed out, it's public comments, not
Got
public
it.
question
Okay.
answer.
Fair enough.
So
Fair enough.
you
Fair
can
enough.
answer your questions
So-
and I'll have an understanding so that when you email me or
So
call
what
me
I would
tomorrow,
like to
it's
say
fine.
to the board is, what are my options at this point versus waiting 12 months? I will wait 12 months and I will come back here in 12 months if I have to. I'm wondering at some point if Mr. Murphy could direct me what my other options are. To To say that the board's decision is disappointing is an understatement. I respect everyone's opinion and the ability to vote how you feel is best. I think if you truly read the comments of the people that submitted letters there, and you looked at what we had to say today, I'm so confused that I'm sitting here still trying to understand language that I think my fourth grader can interpret. That's pretty clear. Our intent is very clear. Again, we're using the word precedent when we're voting. Mr. Twang told me that precedent cannot be considered, but yet we're using that when we're voting. That's disappointing. I would hope that if Mr. Murphy or the assistant city attorney had an opinion on that, that they would voice it to you, even if it's behind closed doors. You have a civic duty to the city. This isn't about winning or losing. This is about getting fair representation. This is about the board allowing 9 members. I have somebody recuse themselves and another person not here. I never afforded a full jury. I understand why Mr. Klatt is recusing himself. I would too. But because there are no alternatives, I will never have a fair trial. It's just very disappointing. As a 40-year resident of this city. But I can assure you of this. This is not the last time you will see me. This is my city and I'm not going anywhere. And I'm hoping that over the next 12 months, you will reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess one more thing I'd like to say to this board in regard to this case is that I was before most of you already, and I felt like I really highlighted the hardship situation that we're in. And I never said that it was unique to our family. I think many people are experiencing an undue hardship because of COVID that forces multiple family members to work from home while children are also around. I invite members of our community who have a relief valve and an opportunity to take advantage of existing living spaces to make it more functional to come before you and make similar requests. They should. Changing the way we use our homes during a changing situation is how we stay alive. It's how we function. And I'll leave you with one other comment, which is, if the language that a practical difficulty and an undue hardship must be demonstrated for every case that comes before you, I hope you will give additional attention to how we, John and Julie Farhat, 40-year Royal Oak residents, are being treated with what I believe is a reasonable request for a unique circumstance, compared to how others come in here, some builders, I won't name names, who demonstrate zero hardship other than wanting to split lots so they can make more profits. Thank you.
All right. Doesn't look like there's any more public comment. So then, is there any mystery motion? Mr. Gavin?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Robinson, get the second in. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. We're done. Thank you.
That was about as long